The 14th century was a pivotal epoch marked by profound upheaval and resilience. Devastating pandemics swept continents while cultural and intellectual movements began to blossom. Established orders faced unprecedented challenges, leading to widespread transformation. From the Black Death to the 100 Years' War, the 14th century was an era of constant flux. The 14th century invites us to witness a world on the cusp of transformation. Imagine the Black Death ravaging cities and villages, leaving unimaginable suffering. This pandemic forced people to confront their mortality and question their existence. Yet, even in adversity, the human spirit endured. The 14th century witnessed the Black Death, one of the deadliest pandemics in history. Caused by Yersinia pestis, it swept across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Between 75 and 200 million people succumbed to the plague. The Black Death's arrival in Europe in 1347 marked a terrifying period. Spread by fleas on rats, it overwhelmed medieval medical knowledge and sanitation. Densely populated cities became breeding grounds for the disease. The Black Death's advance was a testament to the interconnectedness of the medieval world. Trade routes became pathways for the deadly plague. Ships infested with rats carried the disease from port to port. The plague's arrival in Europe was at the Sicilian port of Messina in 1347. Trading ships from the east brought the deadly cargo. The plague spread through Messina, overwhelming the population. From Messina, it spread rapidly to major Italian cities like Florence, Genoa, and Venice. The Black Death's impact on society was profound, leaving an indelible mark. The plague's mortality rate led to a significant population decline, disrupting social order. Traditional hierarchies were challenged as people coped with overwhelming loss. The plague did not discriminate. All were vulnerable. The massive loss of life created a severe labor shortage, particularly in agriculture. With fewer peasants to work the land, wages rose and landlords' power declined. This shift in power sowed the seeds for social unrest and rebellion. The Black Death reshaped the social, economic, and religious landscape. The 14th century in Europe was a period of immense upheaval. Amidst plague and uncertainty, the 100 Years' War unfolded. This war was a series of intermittent battles, truces, and shifting alliances. At the heart of the conflict was the question of succession to the French throne. In 1328, Charles IV of France died without a male heir. Edward III of England, Charles IV's nephew, laid claim to the French crown. The French nobility crowned Philip VI, a cousin of Charles IV, as King of France. The 100 Years' War erupted in 1337, marking a long struggle for dominance. Early English victories, like the naval engagement at Sluys in 1340, set the stage. One pivotal battle was at Crécy in 1346.
At Crécy, the English army, led by Edward III, faced a larger French force. The English longbowmen's volleys decimated the French cavalry charges. The longbow revolutionized medieval warfare.
The 100 Years' War saw periods of intense fighting and truces. Despite early English successes, the French regrouped under Charles V in 1364. Charles V strengthened the French army and employed Fabian tactics. These reforms turned the tide in favor of the French. The conflict reignited under Henry V of England. In 1415, Henry V launched a campaign culminating in the Battle of Agincourt. Agincourt was another decisive English victory. The English longbow inflicted a crushing defeat on the French forces. The 14th century saw the rise of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans, named after Osman I, rose from a small Turkish principality in Anatolia. Their rise coincided with the decline of the Byzantine Empire. Osman I recognized opportunities in the Byzantine Empire's weakening grip. The Ottomans expanded their territory through military prowess and strategic alliances. They established the foundations of a powerful empire. Under Osman I's successors, the Ottoman Empire expanded relentlessly. Orhan I, Osman's son, captured Nicaea in 1331, a former Byzantine capital. The fall of Nicaea signaled the growing Ottoman threat. Orhan I continued expanding into Byzantine territory, capturing Nicomedia in 1337. The Ottomans also extended their influence into the Balkans. They exploited the region's political divisions, forging alliances and subjugating others. The Balkans became a strategic bridgehead to Europe. In 1326, the Ottomans captured Bursa, a prosperous Byzantine city. Bursa served as a vital commercial hub and gateway to the Balkans. Its capture solidified Ottoman control over Anatolia. Orhan I made Bursa the Ottoman Empire's new capital. Bursa's location and trade networks provided a solid economic foundation. The city's diverse population exposed the Ottomans to a rich cultural blend. Bursa's fall marked a symbolic triumph for the Ottomans. The 14th century saw unprecedented turmoil within the Catholic Church. The Avignon Papacy, from 1309 to 1377, saw the papacy reside in Avignon, France. This relocation had profound implications for the Church's authority and unity. The Avignon Papacy was perceived as a puppet of the French monarchy. This perception undermined the Church's moral authority. The Church's entanglement in secular politics led to a crisis of leadership. The seeds of the Avignon Papacy were sown in the late 13th century. Philip IV of France clashed with Pope Boniface VIII over taxation and papal authority. Philip sought to levy taxes on the clergy, which Boniface opposed. Boniface asserted the supremacy of spiritual over temporal power. The conflict escalated in 1302 when Philip convened an assembly challenging the Pope. Philip accused Boniface of heresy and attempted to arrest him. Although Boniface evaded capture, he died shortly thereafter. The Avignon Papacy led to the Great Schism, a period of division within the Church. The schism began in 1378 after the death of Pope Gregory VI. Gregory had returned the papacy to Rome in 1377. His death plunged the Church into chaos. The College of Cardinals elected Urban VI, an autocratic figure. Urban's election led to the existence of rival claimants to the papacy. The schism reflected deep political and national divisions within Christendom. The 14th century witnessed the emergence of a cultural awakening in Italy. Amidst plague, war, and religious strife, a renewed interest in classical learning took root. Italian city-states like Florence, Siena, and Venice became centers of cultural exchange. Wealth from trade provided patronage for artists and intellectuals. The rediscovery of classical texts inspired scholars to revive classical learning. This intellectual awakening laid the groundwork for the Renaissance. The 14th century in Italy witnessed a remarkable flourishing of artistic and literary talent, a harbinger of the Renaissance. Artists began to explore new techniques, such as linear perspective and chiaroscuro, creating more realistic depictions.
Giotto di Bondone, pivotal in the transition to Renaissance art, infused his works with naturalism and emotional depth. His frescoes in Assisi showcased his revolutionary approach to composition and human emotion.
Giotto's influence on artists like Masaccio and Michelangelo solidified his legacy. The Mongol Empire, a testament to the military genius of Genghis Khan, rose from the steppes of Central Asia in the 13th century. It became the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe. Genghis Khan united the Mongol tribes into an unstoppable military force, conquering vast territories with speed and efficiency. Their fierce reputation and pragmatic governance instilled awe and fear, ensuring stability within their domains. The Mongol Empire, despite its military might and administrative efficiency, proved unable to escape the centrifugal forces that had plagued empires throughout history. Following the death of Genghis Khan in 1227, the empire was divided among his sons and grandsons, each inheriting a portion of the vast domain and the responsibility of ruling it. While the empire remained nominally unified under the authority of the Great Khan, the geographical distance and cultural differences between the various khanates gradually eroded the bonds of kinship and loyalty. By the 14th century, the Mongol Empire had begun to fracture along the lines of these divisions, with each khanate pursuing its own interests, often at odds with the others. The Ilkhanate, centered in Persia, faced internal strife and external pressure from the Mamluks of Egypt, culminating in its collapse in 1335. The 14th century saw profound upheaval and social unrest across Europe. The Black Death decimated populations, creating fertile ground for peasant discontent. It exposed inequalities in the feudal system, exacerbating social tensions. Peasants gained leverage as landlords offered higher wages to attract scarce labor. But as populations recovered, elites reasserted control, reimposing the old order. Laws like the Statute of Laborers fixed wages and restricted peasant movement.
The simmering discontent among the peasantry, fueled by economic hardship and social injustice, erupted into open rebellion in several parts of Europe during the latter half of the 14th century.
These revolts, often spontaneous and poorly organized, were a testament to the desperation and anger felt by those at the bottom of the social hierarchy.
While ultimately unsuccessful, these uprisings challenged the established order and exposed the vulnerability of a system long considered immutable.
In the 14th century, Italian city-states known as the Maritime Republics rose to prominence, their fortunes tied to the sea. Venice, Genoa, Pisa, and Amalfi dominated Mediterranean trade, establishing vast networks. Their merchants navigated treacherous waters, braving storms, pirates, and political rivalries. Ships laden with exotic goods fueled Europe's appetite for luxury and economic growth. Venice emerged as a maritime powerhouse, its wealth rivaling kingdoms and empires. Among the maritime republics, Venice stood apart, its wealth, power, and cultural influence unmatched. La Serenissimi's empire, built on trade, diplomacy, and naval might, extended from the Adriatic to the Black Sea. Venice's strategic location provided a natural advantage for trade. Their ships, laden with goods from the east, transformed Venice into a bustling entrepot. Venice's unique government ensured prosperity and independence for centuries. The 14th century saw a shift in warfare, moving away from chivalric ideals and knightly dominance. New technologies like the English longbow and early gunpowder weapons changed the battlefield. The English longbow, simple yet devastating, was a game-changer in the 100 Years' War. It could fire arrows with greater range and power, effective against armored knights. Longbowmen, often yeomen, decimated charging cavalry, shattering the knights' invincibility. The battles of Crécy and Agincourt highlighted the longbow's effectiveness, marking a turning point in medieval warfare. While the English longbow revolutionized warfare on the battlefields of Western Europe, another technological innovation with even more profound and far-reaching consequences began to make its appearance on the world stage: gunpowder. Gunpowder, a mixture of sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, had originated in China centuries earlier, but its use in warfare had been limited to incendiary devices and primitive rockets. However, by the 14th century, knowledge of gunpowder and its military applications had spread westward, transmitted along the trade routes of Central Asia, eventually reaching Europe. The first gunpowder weapons, crude cannons and handguns, were rudimentary and unreliable, often as dangerous to their users as to their intended targets. However, their potential to transform warfare was readily apparent. The ability to project force over distances and shatter fortifications with explosive power challenged the traditional methods of siege warfare, which had relied on catapults, battering rams, and other mechanical devices. The 14th century stands as a testament to the enduring capacity of the human spirit to confront adversity. It was a century of profound contradictions, where unimaginable suffering coexisted alongside remarkable resilience. The Black Death cast a long shadow over the century, leaving an indelible mark on the medieval world. Yet even in the face of such devastation, the human spirit endured. The stirrings of a cultural and intellectual awakening would blossom into the Renaissance. The 14th century, while distant in time, continues to resonate with us today, its legacy etched into the fabric of the modern world. The rise of humanism, with its emphasis on human reason and the pursuit of knowledge, planted the seeds for the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment. The social and political upheavals foreshadowed the rise of democratic ideals. The 14th century, a period of both darkness and light, reminds us of the human spirit's resilience and innovation. It continues to captivate our imaginations, offering valuable lessons about the cyclical nature of history.